Good day, everyone. Eric from Helps YouTube Live, or Helps Law Firm for Seniors. My name is Eric Olsen, attorney now for 46 years, the founder of Helps. If you're a senior struggling with debt, I think we have answers for you that's going to help you out. I've been an attorney now, like I said, for 46 years, founder of Helps. Helps is a national law firm that represents seniors and disabled persons who owe debt they can't afford to pay. Trust you can hear me okay. Good to have you here today on Thursday, February 13th. Tomorrow's Valentine's Day. Good to have you here. So we got things to talk about. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat, and I'll be glad to address those questions as we go. A lot of you like to talk amongst yourselves. I don't mind that. I try to search for the questions as they come up. Okay? I think if it's your first time, I think you'll be happy listening to what I have to say. You're going to learn some stuff, okay? Something you may not have heard other places. So I'll just start out with this inquiry. And it says a certain person is his significant other. They're not married. Their finances are intertwined, but they are calling about an RV they can no longer afford. And apparently his partner is the only one on the loan. She has several bank accounts and a CD, and she's also on his accounts and on his CDs. What's the CD? Certificate of deposit. Apparently they have a little bit of savings. He believes that she is on the deed of their home. But he's the only one on the loan. They want to keep the home. We emailed some stuff to them, explained how their bank accounts are protected from garnishments. And we also emailed them an email that talks about voluntary surrender of an RV and homes and judgments. They will go over everything, call back with additional questions. Let them know most clients would enroll after they receive the letter of deficiency if that is the only debt she is concerned about. So let's talk about this for a second. Okay. So we talk to a lot of seniors that have RVs that for whatever reason they can't afford to keep or they can't use anymore. There's different reasons. And I've talked about this a lot, and I'll just talk about it again real briefly. If you have an RV you can't afford, you can stop the payment and let it go back. Creditor's eventually going to repossess it. They're going to sell it. They're probably going to owe a difference. It's called a deficiency. They'll send you a notice of that. What Helps does is we represent seniors who owe debt in order to stop, and disabled persons in order to stop debt collector harassment. When seniors find out about us and they enroll in Helps, they give us the creditors to whom they owe money. We send out a cease and desist letter. That's a letter that tells a debt collector they can no longer call the person or send them demand letters, send them more. They have to deal with the attorney. And that's a law that went into effect in 1978 called the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Provides if you're represented by an attorney, collectors have to leave you alone. And so that's what we'll do. They'll contact us. She'll give us that creditor that she owes on the RV with the balance that's owed. And if she has any other debt, we can include that. If she doesn't want to pay it, she doesn't have to pay it. If they were to sue her and her only income is Social Security, a pension, it's protected, can't be taken from her. Now, what about the home? Well, okay. The home really isn't at risk. If she owns it, she's on the title with her partner. And if someone were to sue and get a judgment, they're not going to take the home. Even if she has equity and above, even if it's worth more than what she's allowed to keep in equity in the state where she lives. Okay, it's not the practice of consumer judgment creditors like a credit card to go after a person's home, even if they have equity in a home over and above the exemption or the amount you're allowed to that's protected in the state where you live. They just don't do it for a number of reasons. Another problem would be is if they sued her for the debt for the RV, his name is on the home. So no, there's not an issue with her losing the home. And as long as she keeps the balance in her bank account less than twice the amount of federal benefits such as Social Security she gets each month, since 2012, banks automatically protect twice the amount of your Social Security or federal benefit deposit in your bank account from garnishment, regardless of if there's other funds in there. Doesn't matter. So if you got $1,500 in Social Security, $3,000 in your bank account is protected automatically without you having to do anything. So that's what we're going to tell her. We're going to, when people call helps, we ask them some questions, some basic questions, in order to find out what their situation is. Then we read them what we do. Sometimes people will call 3 or 4 times before they decide to enroll in helps. And we've got a plethora of videos, and our website is extensive, and you can spend hours on it reading articles about helps and what we do. So, yeah, if you have financial problems and you're a senior and you're stressed, there is a solution, and you can call us. We can talk to you. When people enroll in helps, it's just not a one-time thing. You're a client literally forever. So if you ever have a question or concern, you can always pick up the phone and you call, no matter how often. We don't turn anyone away that needs our help. Okay, so Mom was bantering about her credit cards that she has to pay. I said, you don't have to pay them. She said they will cut her off. I told her that might not be a bad thing. Next, she makes the electric bill. Okay, when people call helps and they have debt, one of the things we ask them is, do you have a credit card with a small balance or nothing is owed that you still want to keep? And often they'll say yes. If you have a credit card that you're current on, as long as that isn't backed by a bank with whom you have another credit card that you're not going to pay, you could keep that credit card. So if you got a modest credit card or 2 that you want to keep, you could still keep that. Helps is different. In bankruptcy, all your credit card is shut off. All your credit is shut off, whether you owe them anything or not. In bankruptcy, banks or credit card companies, they subscribe to a service that lets them know if someone filed bankruptcy, and if someone filed bankruptcy, whether that person owes them any money or not, they're going to cut the credit off automatically. Okay? You're right. If you don't have these other debts, like Sunset says, then you're going to have money to pay the electric bill. You're going to have money to pay for the buy a little gift for the grandkids, or you're going to have money to pay for co-payment on the medical bill. If you don't have to pay the credit card debt and these other debts, then things are going to go a lot easier for you. Now, most of our clients that helps they have lower incomes, poor or modest incomes, and they just simply have debt they can't afford to pay. And life is such that their expenses, they just can't afford to pay the debt anymore. So if you're in that situation, there is hope. Okay, you don't have to enroll with a debt management program or a debt settlement program. If you ever called them and talked to them, I talk to people that are enrolled with debt management or debt settlement. I'll ask them, did they ever tell you, by the way, all your income is protected? No one can touch your Social Security. And they'll always tell me, no, Mr. Olsen, they never told me that. Well, no, they don't tell you that. If they would have told you that, you wouldn't have enrolled with them, and they would have made money off of you. And they make a ton of money. These debt management companies and debt settlement companies, if you pay $300 or $400 or the $400, they're going to take at least a quarter probably for their fee, and that adds up. Okay, a lot. Okay. Now, if you're wondering about the cost of helps, our cost is absolutely minimal. Boy, people that enroll in helps don't pay their debt back. Okay, you can if you want some of it, but you don't have to. And what we do is protect you so the creditors leave you alone. And if you got any questions, put them in the chat feature. You're going to be fine. If your account goes over the protected income, do they just take the amount over, or do they take all the money that's in the account? Well, okay, so as I've explained, in order for anyone to take money out of your bank account, first they'd have to sue you and get a judgment. Okay, they may never do that. But if they sued you, they have to serve you with papers. You'd have to wait a while before they get a judgment. It could be months, maybe even years. Like I said yesterday, I talked about a guy that got sued like 3 years ago. And now they're finally getting around to getting a judgment. But, No, if you got 1,500 in Social Security, your bank will protect 3,000. Now, if you had over that, um, yeah, that money could be put on hold. However, you could file what's called a challenge to garnishment or claim of exemption with the court, and the court will order that money be released and given back to you. Okay? So there's no reason you should lose anything. But if you don't want to even risk losing, having to do that paperwork, just keep the balance in your bank account less than twice the amount of your Social Security you get each month, or federal benefit like a VA benefit or federal pension of some type. Um, yeah, and then you won't even have to worry about it in the first place, and that's not difficult to do for most people. So I can't read this here. Sorry. I have a loan, Denise, with 20,000 with my 12-year-old truck as collateral. They can have the truck. Is there much they can do? Is there anything they can do otherwise? No. Um, I got just a minute here. Sorry, the chat just disappeared on me. I got to get it. Got to get it loaded up here. Just a minute here. Well, my chat disappeared for a second. Sorry about that. I'll get it straightened out here. So let me get back to this. I'll call my tech guy and get my chat up so I can answer those questions. Just a second here. So, um, okay, Derek, can you help me get chat up? It disappeared. Okay, so this person called in. Now I'll get back to you. I'll get your chat. We'll get it all up here in a second. Person has 85,000 in debt. Oh, this is some notes from one of our paralegals that early February. Okay, 85,000 in debt, and the person's with Beyond Credit Counseling. So that's a debt management company that helps people supposedly. That's one that won't tell a senior, by the way, your income is protected. Okay, which they didn't tell. They're negotiating for 3 of her credit cards. Um, she pays them, it's like $300 a month. Uh, we're getting the chat up here. Here we go. So she didn't realize that her income was protected, and that she didn't have to pay beyond finance. She could stop paying them. And she was a little hesitant about us, and we sent her an email with links to some videos, and we gave the videos. She looked at the videos, and it looks like she called us like yesterday, enrolled after she saw the videos about helps and what we do. And it looks like I'm going to get the chat up here in a second, I hope, and then I can talk to you. I can answer your questions. I don't know about where you live, but where I live, it's snowing outside. And we don't get a lot of snow where I live, but it's really, really coming down. And I got the window open in front of me, and it's just coming down like crazy. It's been cold, and they only predicted 20 minutes of snow, but it's going for a couple hours now, and they expect it to go all day now. Looks like we're having a problem with the chat getting it up. So I'll talk about something else too. The fair debt collection practice. There, we got it. We got it back up. We need to go, if I can get to the beginning, Derek, so that I can scroll down it too. And if I can make it a smaller size, it would be helpful so I can answer these questions. Okay. Is there a way I can scroll up? Okay, here we go. Okay. Thanks for being patient with me here. We're just about here. But I need to go back up a little bit to the beginning here. How do I get up higher, Derek? How do I get to the beginning? Okay. So, Ms. H asks, after a client withhelps and may be sued with a judgment, who is suing? Is it the creditor or the debt collector also? Can the debt collector sue also or not? Yeah, only one of them going to sue. If both of them sued, that's a mistake. Okay. And it depends. Sometimes it's the debt collector, the original creditor that sues, but more often than not, it's the debt collector down the road that sues. Okay. It could be either one. So a debt collector is either purchase the debt from an original creditor or they're assigned the debt to collect on the original creditor's behalf. Either one can legally sue. Okay. Now, if you're sued, are you going to need to worry? Not really. If your income, Social Security, and a pension, disability, VA benefit, as long as you keep twice the amount of your bank balance, less than twice the amount of your benefit you get each month, your Social Security, for example, then your bank's going to protect that money from garnishment. And are you going to have to go to court? Normally, you won't have to go to court. Sometimes creditors will make you think you do have to go to court, and you'll read the summons and paperwork and think, oh, I have to go to court. But if you read it carefully, that's only if you're going to contest the lawsuit. If you're not going to fight the lawsuit, then what can happen is, they can get a judgment, but that's it. They can't collect from you. You're what's called non-collectible, uncollectible now. You don't need to worry. So if you're a helps client, what we ask you to do if you get sued, and there's no guarantee you will be sued, but if you happen to get sued, then you get us a copy of the lawsuit. Now, we don't need the whole thing normally. We usually need the first 3 or 4 pages. We need the case number, the name and address of the attorney that sued you. And then what we're going to do is we're going to call you and explain why you're going to be okay, why you don't need to go to court. We're going to send you some emails and links to videos that explains why your assets are protected. and then we're going to contact the attorney that sued you and let them know that your income is protected and that you're not going to appear at court. And we understand they're going to get a judgment. We remind them of the fact that your bank account is protected. We don't need to do that, but we do it anyway, because your bank protects that automatically. So, yeah, we're going to talk to you on the phone, explain why you don't need to worry. And we're going to also tell you that if you ever do worry or have a question, then you pick up the phone and you call. Now, in some states, when you get sued and they get a judgment eventually, they may send you some more paperwork to fill out or something. Not all states, a real minority. I've talked often about Florida has what's called a fact information sheet or financial information sheet they send to someone when a judgment is obtained. And, we help people fill that out. It's pretty self-explanatory. It just asks some basic questions about your assets. But if you read it not knowing that your income is protected, it could scare you. And I shudder to think the number of seniors that get that form, and if they don't know their rights, end up calling the creditor and make arrangements to pay when they don't have to pay the debt. Okay? Bottom line is we don't want you to worry. Thank you, Derek, for doing this. Right. Your income is protected. You don't need to worry. Your Social Security is not going anywhere. Nor is Medicare or Medicaid. It's not going anywhere either. It's safe. It's going to be there for you. Okay. So sorry for that glitch. Let's go on. This person contacted us from Texas. I'll talk about life estate in a second, okay? But this person from Texas, the potential client has Social Security and a small pension, has 3 credit cards totaling $50,000. He owns a mobile home and a car outright. We told him about helps, answered his questions, and he enrolled right then. So, well, that's pretty straightforward. The person was receiving Social Security and a pension, which is protected. No one's going to take their mobile home. It's protected too. And they had a car that was outright. Now, this person lived in Texas. Depends on the state you live. But let's say, some states protect, most states protect a certain amount of equity in a car. It could be $2,000, $5,000, $10,000. Some states have what's called a wild card exemption, where if it's not listed as protected, then a certain sum of money or a certain value is protected anyway. Texas is one of those states that got like a $50,000 wild card exemption. So, but even if you lived in a state that didn't protect only $1,000 in a car and it was worth $10,000, and you had $9,000, and it was worth $10,000, is the creditor going to take your car if they get a judgment? No, it would be virtually never done. Okay, it's too complicated, too expensive for them. We had it happen to a client here a couple months ago from a credit union, but I looked at the facts and the amount the car was worth. I guarantee you it cost the credit union probably 2 or 3 times more than what they're ever going to get out of that car. But no, we don't run into problems with clients losing their cars. Okay, if someone gets a judgment against them, you don't need to worry about that. Okay. You can always call and we can always talk to you about it, but it's just not going to happen. What do I know? I've only been doing this, for 46 years, 40,000 bankruptcies. It's not the practice of judgment creditors that get judgments to go after people's cars. Now, obviously, if you have a car loan and they have the title, then they could repossess the car. That's different. But if it's a judgment creditor that has that's a totally different matter. Okay? Do you know about life estates? Is that a good idea? So what's a life estate? A life estate is where let's say you owned a home and you wanted to give it to your kids, or a person wanted to give, they could literally deed the home to another person, maybe their children, maybe even a spouse. Okay. All right, here's an example. Let's say uh, your spouse passed away and you had a free and clear home and you got remarried. Uh, and you've only been remarried to this person for a couple of years, but the home was worth a whole lot of money. But you wanted to leave the home to your children when you die, but yet you wanted to take care of your spouse that you married a couple of years ago. You could give that spouse what's called a life estate, which means that during that spouse's lifetime, if she or he survives you, then they could live in the home, maintain it, pay the taxes on it, and then at their death, the property would go to the kids. So yeah, you could give a life estate to someone, and then at their death, the property goes to someone else who you want ultimately to get the house. We have an email that explains that for people. You can do it yourself. We don't give legal advice on this kind of stuff, but a life estate could be an answer for some people. Yeah. Okay. Is it better to do your system or file bankruptcy? I'm 61 and have about 50,000 credit card and 2 personal loans. I have no assets but a 15-year-old car that's been paid off for years. Well, I would tell you, if you came into me when I was filing bankruptcy, before I started helps, I'd say, well, you're 61. What's your source of income? Let's say you're getting Social Security, or you're about to get Social Security and a pension. I would tell you, you probably don't need to file bankruptcy. You could look at it, but I'll explain that. If your only income is Social Security or a pension or disability or VA benefits, then that's protected from creditors. And you can stop the creditors from harassing you by sending a cease and desist letter out. That's what Helps does. We represent our clients ongoing, so they don't have to deal with collectors. Now, you could file bankruptcy. That's assuming that your income was low enough and you qualify to file regular bankruptcy, and you didn't have any assets that weren't exempt. Okay, but then there's the cost for filing bankruptcy, probably anywhere from at least $2,000 to $3,000, probably. If any attorney referred you to a Chapter 13, you'd want to look at that real seriously, because a lot of times Chapter 13s are totally unnecessary. But then if you're 61 and you're going to live another 20 years and you got all this debt, you might look at bankruptcy. I just want to get rid of the debt and get a clean slate. But a lot of it depends on what your income is. If your income's minimal, you may not even be able to afford a bankruptcy. You probably don't even need to worry about a bankruptcy. Okay? And we have an email that we send to people, Helps versus Bankruptcy, that explains both options. I have no problem I never hesitate to recommend to someone that they could file bankruptcy. I'm not scared to do that. The charge for Helps is really minimal. Okay, or we don't turn anyone away. A lot of our clients get our help for free. So we have no hesitancy at all to tell someone about bankruptcy and how it could work and why it might make sense. We don't file bankruptcy for people, but most of our clients, they have no need to file bankruptcy. Okay. So this person's from California. Oh yeah, I think I may have talked to this person yesterday or day before. Okay, they got a home that's worth $350,000, and she only owes $23,000 on the home. Her only income was $1,200 a month. It was a Social Security and a little teeny pension, and she'd like to stay in the home. And she had a lot of debt because her son used her credit cards and ran them up, and now he's gone and won't pay her credit card debt, and she can't pay him anymore. She's worried what to do. Well, I explained to her, I said, well, you don't need to pay the credit card. They're not going to be able to, credit cards are not going to be able to collect from you. Your Social Security and your pension's protected. You live in California. The homestead exemption in California in almost every county is at least $600,000 or more. The home's worth $350,000, so your home isn't at risk. But then I told her something that sometimes I tell seniors. I said, have you looked into what's called a reverse mortgage? And sometimes I'll tell that to people, and seniors, and they'll say, well, I don't want that. And I'll ask them why, and they can't give me a reason. So in this person's instance, they had a home that's worth $350,000. They owed $23,000, and their only income was $1,200 a month. I don't know what their house payment was, but I'm going to assume it was close to $500 or $600 a month. If I remember right, she was living on very little money because she paid, the time she paid that house payment, she didn't have hardly anything left over. And I explained to her, I said, a reverse mortgage would pay off your little mortgage. So you no longer have a house payment anymore. And that way, all your Social Security and pension is yours to use. Not only that, you have enough equity, you could get a line of credit on your home that you could draw on if you wanted to, and give you an extra $300 or $400 a month for the rest of your life, probably. It could also provide to pay your property taxes. And it would make your life totally different. And she was excited to hear about that, and I gave her some contact information. We refer a lot of people, not a lot, but we occasionally refer people for a reverse mortgage. I've got a relationship with a man that I've known now for 15, 16 years that does reverse mortgages. He's from Michigan, covers the whole country. We don't have any financial arrangement, but he's just been really good to our clients. So we're happy to refer someone so they learn more about a reverse mortgage. It's totally up to the client if they want to do that. But it can make a lot of sense for people, and especially in her circumstance would make a whole lot of sense because her income was so low. She didn't owe much on the house, and the time she made that house payment, it left her with hardly anything. And if she got a reverse mortgage, she wanted to stay in the home, but that way she could stay in the home and have a little bit of money and not have to worry so much. And when you get a reverse mortgage, you can literally live in the home till the rest of your life. You still own the home. You could still sell it. You could still provide to give it to your children when you pass away. But you're going to stay in the home, okay? You can stay in the home if you want to. You don't have to move. And you're not going to need to worry, okay? And we have videos on reverse mortgages you can look at if you want, if that's something that might apply to you. So Bob is asking, you got $100,000 in credit card debt, just got a judgment for $35,000 on one of them. Social Security and pension, I have a house, cottage, a car, and truck, free and clear. Bankruptcy? Well, maybe not. I'll explain why. Okay, you've got a house. It depends what state you live in. Some states protect all the equity in a home. Some states protect a certain amount of equity in a home. But let's say your state protected $100,000 equity in a home, and the home is worth and let's say you owed $100,000 on the home, okay, and it was worth $300,000. So that means you'd have $100,000 in non-exempt equity in the home. $300,000 minus what you owe is $100, minus $100 leaves $200,000. Your exemption is $100,000, therefore you got $100,000 in non-exempt equity. You couldn't file regular bankruptcy, otherwise the trustee would take the home and sell it, give you your pay off the mortgage, give you your $100,000 your exemption, and use the rest of the money to pay your creditors. I don't think you'd want that. And then the other thing too is if you had a cottage that's on a separate tax lot, there's probably not an exemption that's going to cover that. States will protect your home, but they're not going to protect a second piece of property. Okay? So bankruptcy may not be an option. Is help's an option? Yeah, if your income is Social Security, pension, disability, VA benefits, enroll in helps. Creditors can't take any of your income, your Social Security, your pension. They're not going to be able to take your home. What about the cottage? Well, it depends. Do you owe money on it? Is there an equity in it? I mean, how much do you owe on it? Maybe there's not much equity in it. Maybe someone else's name was on the cottage with you. Maybe you had one of your kids' name on there with you. There'd be a lot of reasons why they wouldn't go after the cottage, okay? And they're definitely not going to go after the car. That's free and clear. Or the truck. Just don't do it. So we'd be glad to go over this with you. But, with a bunch of non-exempt assets, you file bankruptcy, it's going to be a problem. They might put you into what's called a Chapter 13. And we talk to clients occasionally that are put in Chapter 13s, and they end up with a payment they simply can't afford to make. And they really don't need to be there, because if they didn't do anything, the credit wouldn't take the asset. The only reason they're in the Chapter 13 is the attorney said you have to be in a 13. Otherwise, if you're in a regular bankruptcy, the trustee could take that asset and sell it. Well, a trustee is different than a judgment creditor. They're not going to sell your asset. They just don't do it. So we'd talk to you about that, but so if a person has another person on the credit card debt as an authorized user and gets a judgment, will the other person have to pay the bill because they were an authorized user? No. If they didn't sign for the debt, in other words, if they didn't agree to pay for the debt when the credit card was taken, and they were just given permission to use the card, then no, they're not going to be responsible for the debt. Sometimes a credit card might manipulate, like let's say someone passed away and an authorized user, a credit card company might try to manipulate an authorized user into thinking they need to pay the debt. But they're only an authorized user. They didn't agree to pay the debt. They never signed an agreement. So no, they're not going to have to pay it. Ken, this one says, Ken did my reverse mortgage. It was the best thing I could have done. Yeah, I hear that a lot. Reverse mortgage if you're staying in the home for the rest of your life. Yeah, that's true. That's true. If you're going to sell the home down the road, a reverse mortgage may not make sense. Okay? But it doesn't prevent you from getting a reverse mortgage and then deciding to sell the home. You can always do that. So this person contacted us from Kentucky. Struggling to keep up with credit card payments. 4 credit cards that they're going to let go of. But it hasn't yet defaulted. Let's make a decision this week to stop trying to rob Peter to pay Paul. She's been watching our videos a while now. She says it took her 3 days to muster up the courage to call us. Oh, I'm sorry. If you're listening and you haven't called us and you need this kind of help, it's really easy to call. We're really nice. Okay? We're going to answer your question. You're going to feel a lot better after you talk to us. But anyway, she mustered up the courage to call us, and it says here, this is notes from my staff. It says she is so glad they put "so" as capital letters. So glad she did call. I let her know we are here to help her now. So please call us anytime. She was very appreciative and wishes she had called sooner. She is feeling reassured on her decision. Yeah. And this person was from Kentucky, and I see age 66, and her income was only $987 a month. Now, I don't know how much debt she was paying, but she had, she had housing expenses and food and electricity and 4 credit cards. I mean, she was really, robbing Peter to pay Paul, and so this is going to help out a whole lot and not have to pay those credit cards. She's still going to be poor, but she's not going to have to worry about paying that credit card debt. Okay, I surrendered the RV a year and a half ago, and the credit union is still reporting delinquencies on my account. How long can that go on for? Well, that could be stopped. Let me explain. Okay, Helps doesn't help people restore credit. However, what we do is we contracted with a company called 720 Credit Score. Phil Tyrone. I've known him for a long time. And he has a legitimate program to help people rebuild their credit. Your credit is based on your recent credit history. And if you've been part of HELPS for at least 90 days, you can contact us. We can send you an email with the link to enroll in his program for free. Doesn't cost you anything. Helps pays him a sum of money each month to provide that for our clients. And your credit is based on your recent credit history. And you can also dispute things. And he's going to tell you how to deal with the credit union making those reports. Credit unions, I graduated from law school from 78. I probably filed my first bankruptcy within 3 or 4 months after graduating from law school. And then I did all kinds of law till about 1986, from 78 to 86. I did criminal law, I did divorces, I did contracts, I did lots of trials. So I got a wide experience, helping people with estates, property transactions, but always had clients coming in to file bankruptcy. And then finally in 86, I realized, boy, there weren't very many decent bankruptcy attorneys out there. And they weren't helping people. And I said, I'm going to have to, I did personal injury cases, for people on auto accidents. So I've got a wide experience in the law in different areas. But in 86, I decided to just concentrate on bankruptcy. And that's what I started doing. I gave all my other cases away to other attorneys and just did nothing but bankruptcy. And it was one of the best decisions I ever made because, I was able to help more people. And then, of course, from 86 to 96 to 2006 to, 2012, when I finally realized that seniors needed help and started HELPS. So where am I here? About credit. And, when I started HELPS on credit, a lot of our clients don't really worry about rebuilding their credit. But a few years ago, a lot of times some of them did for different reasons. Maybe they're worried about, being able to rent a place maybe, or maybe they had a little bit more extra money and they could afford a car payment. So I called Phil Tyrone a couple of years ago and I said, Phil, is there something we can do for our HELPS clients? And he said, absolutely, Eric. Credit is based on your recent credit history. And then I knew that back in 2018, 2019, credit reports stopped reporting judgments and lawsuits and tax liens. So it is possible to rebuild your credit, okay, if you're interested in doing that. And if you're part of HELPS for 90 days, contact us. We'll send you an email. That program is free. That's right. Reverse mortgages doesn't apply to mobile homes unless they're sitting on land and attached to the land on a foundation of some form. Okay? It can't be an RV that you can pull away. It's got to be a mobile home sitting on land. And then the mobile home has to be a fairly recent year. I don't know, like 1978 or newer. Okay? It can still be old, but it can't be real old. But it has to be on dirt, okay, that you're buying, not in a park. If you file Chapter 13, no assets, can I keep 1 or 2 credit cards that I sometimes use? Well, you're supposed to list all your debt when you file bankruptcy. And like I've said before, if you have a credit card you owe nothing on, list it in the bankruptcy. But my experience is that banks and the credit card companies, they have a service that reports to them if one of their clients filed bankruptcy. And they're going to cut the credit card off anyway, even if you didn't owe anything to them. Now, there might be an exception, but that's been my experience, is they cut people's credit cards off, even if they don't know anything on them. Is Citibank a hard-on creditor that will sue and or freeze a bank account? Well, not any more than any other one that I can. But you don't need to worry if you're sued. If your income and Social Security and a pension is protected, and your bank account is protected, as I've explained. As long as you keep less than twice the amount of your Social Security in that account. If someone sued you and got a judgment, um, and they tried to garnish your bank will protect that. Now, they probably wouldn't even know where you bank, and are they going to sue you? Maybe, maybe not. When a person enrolls in helps, we send a letter to these creditors, let them know that your income is Social Security, and if they thought about it, they'd realize that it's a waste of their time to sue. Okay, waste of their money. Okay, get my glasses on so I can read this stuff. Well, this person called us from Texas, and he said, I'm a veteran, 61 years old, recently 100% disabled. So he's getting disability of some form. I have credit cards and back taxes I can't afford to pay due to my lowered income. Is there any relief for me? Yes, there is. Let me go on. We called him back. He was someplace where he couldn't talk to us, but he's very interested in our services. So we talked to him, looks like yesterday. Struggling with credit card debt. He has some money in a savings account. And we discussed the account vulnerability if they sued and got a judgment, that he'd want to keep his money in his checking account and keep the balance in there less than twice the amount that he gets in Social Security and a VA benefit. Okay? He will make a decision as to how he will proceed with his savings account. He doesn't need to do anything until at such time as he's sued, and then he'd want to make arrangements to clear out the savings account then. And we discussed the best practice for one bank account. And last thing it says, he's ready to enroll. Okay, this guy was from, looks like, Texas. Okay. My wife and I are both on Social Security. I have a part-time job that pays $1,200 a month. Should I keep that in a separate bank account? As long as you put your income in the account in which your Social Security goes, and you keep that account in which your Social Security goes less than twice the amount of Social Security benefits you get each month, then it doesn't matter what other monies are in there. The bank's going to protect that money. They're going to protect twice the amount of money in your account that you get from a federal benefit like Social Security, regardless of what other monies are in there. It could be from any other source, including your wages. Okay? Now, the next thing I would say is, well, is your $1,200 a month at risk? Well, okay. I'll talk about a fair number of our clients may have a side job, or they may work, or they decide to go back to work. Okay, the rule is that, some states protect whatever wages you have. Okay, Pennsylvania, Texas, a lot of states protect a various amount of wages. There's a federal law that protects $217.50 net per week in every state, no matter whether the state has a law that protects wages or not. That turns out to be $435 every 2 weeks, or about $950 a month. Okay, in net in wages. So, but if you made more than that in there, does that mean that you're going to get garnished? Probably unlikely, and I'll explain why. First, if you enrolled in helps, we're going to send a letter to your creditors, let them know that you can't pay the debt. It's doesn't mean they're going to not sue you. They could, but if they sued you, they'd have to get a judgment. Then they're going to have to know where you work, and that's not always easy. You can't just go to find out where a person works. There's not a website. This is where this person works. No, that's not the case. They'd have to know where you work, and then if they garnish you, it depends on your state. And let's say it was just the minimum, $217.50, and if you got paid every 2 weeks, like let's say $500, and if they garnish your wages, they might be able to get $30 or $40 out of your wages, if that. I mean, you could lower the hours so you're under the amount. But the chance of you having a problem in the first place is probably pretty remote. We got a lot of our helps clients that do go back to work, and I don't have too many of them call me saying, Eric, I'm being garnished. What do I do? It just doesn't happen. Okay. I mean, it does, but it's just so rare. I wouldn't worry about it. And I encourage our clients, if you want to work, go ahead, work. You bet. And once again, there's a lot of states that will protect your income from garnishment without you having all of it, no matter what you make. Is it a good idea to get your money out and go somewhere else because you did auto pay? Can any creditor come after your account or find out where you went next? Yeah, I guess that could be reasons to change a bank account. And I have no way of knowing. No, there's no way they would know where you change to have your bank account go to. No. But once again, remember, twice the amount of your federal benefits is protected automatically. Okay? If you don't own a home and live with a family member, can they put a lien on a home that you don't own? Absolutely not. No. If the person owes the IRS and they're disabled and can't work, can the IRS hold the wife responsible for what's owed since she works and the taxes were filed jointly? Okay, well, I'll talk for a minute about that. We're getting down the end today, but I'll talk about taxes for a minute. Okay, our main purpose is to protect seniors from collector harassment. You give us your creditors you owe money to, we send out a cease and desist letter. You know, there's a federal law called the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Provide if you're represented by an attorney, collectors have to leave you alone. And that's what we do. But, you know, our second mission is to educate seniors how they can maintain their financial independence. So we talk to a fair number of seniors that owe taxes. First thing I want you to know is if you owe state taxes, your income, your Social Security, your pension, your bank account is protected from a state tax collector, just like it's protected from a credit card collector. A state tax collector can't take your Social Security, can't garnish your bank account, if you keep the balance less than twice the amount of your federal benefit. Now, what about the IRS? Well, the most the IRS would ever do is if you owe taxes to the IRS, about the most they ever do as a practical matter would send you a letter saying they intend to offset 15% of your Social Security. So if you got $2,000 Social Security, they could take, what, $300. But before they do that, they'd have to send you a letter saying that they're going to do that and give you 60 days. And then if your income is under a certain amount, like $2,500 or less if you're single, or $3,500 or you're less, and even more now with inflation, and you're married, you likely could qualify for what's called currently not collectible status with the IRS. We have emails that explains how to do that. A lot of times we'll tell our clients, well, you don't need to worry about that unless you've got this notice from the IRS saying they're going to offset 15% of your Social Security. Then you can apply for currently not collectible status then. If your income's really low, you can probably do it over the phone. Get on the phone, call them, wait for an hour and a half, 2 hours for them to pick up. Then they're going to hang up after 2 hours, you're going to have to call again. But when you get them on the phone, you're going to explain to your income and your expenses, and they can put you on currently not collectible status. So they're not going to take any money from you. So you should be okay on taxes. Okay? Okay. Is it hard to sell a home if you have a judgment or a lien on it? No. I'll explain why. So when you sell the home, before it gets sold, there's going to be a title report. There has to be title insurance. The person who wants to buy the home wants to make sure there's no lien on it. The lien will pop up on the title report. And then what's going to happen is the title company they'll know how much you owe to pay that lien off. So you don't have to come up with the money to pay the lien before you sell the home. It can be paid from the proceeds from the sale of the home. Yeah. Um, yeah. So if any of you got questions on any of this stuff, you call us on the phone. We'll be glad to talk to you and give you, we don't give legal advice. We give legal information. The information that helps has is basic information that's going to help you. Okay. Um, Virtually none of our clients that we help really have the need for an attorney to represent them in court. They owe the money, they can get a judgment, but we explain to them how their income is protected, why it can't be taken, so they don't have to worry. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to end up with this one. The person was from Ohio. It says 72 years old, retired federal worker. I don't know if you've been listening to the news, but they talked about how federal employees retire recently, and apparently it's all done by paperwork. It's not computerized. And when I listened to that, it blew me away. But anyway, that's not on the kind of an inefficient way to retire people. But anyway, so this person's retired, and this is what I like. It says it puts her name is grumpy from the jump, not happy about the questions we asked. But then our paralegal said, but she is just very stressed. We talk to grumpy people. We don't mind. I tell my staff, I said, don't let it get to you. Debt can make you grumpy, and people get stressed. Okay, we deal with that. Um, and then on February 6th, one of our attorneys called her back and said, explained how we work in detail. And apparently she's in debt settlement. And I guarantee you one of the things we were going to ask her is, did they tell you that your income was protected? You didn't need to pay the debt? And her answer is going to say, no, they never told me that. And let's see what it says. She is going to call back and enroll. And then she called back yesterday, ready to enroll. No further questions. She said the first call she had was very thorough. And then it says that she enrolled. Okay, so if you have a question or you're worried or scared, you pick up the phone and you call. Don't be like that person I mentioned earlier today that was scared to call us. You don't need to be scared. We're nice, and I guarantee you're going to feel a lot better. I've heard that so many times. Relief when you realize that you're going to be okay. Okay, so thanks everyone for participating. Sorry for the foul up at the beginning. Um, we'll get better at this as time goes on, but we're still pretty good at it. I'm 74 now. When I first started practice, I had a manual typewriter. There was no such thing as computers, really. Okay, I remember when I had what's called a mag card, and that was amazing. And I remember looking at my first computer from IBM, and it was like $12,000. That would have been 1979 or 1980. I couldn't afford that, and man, but boy, the world has sure changed, hasn't it? So thanks for participating. Give us a call if you have questions. We want to help you out. We don't turn anyone away. If the cost is minimal or free, you're going to be fine. God bless, and I'll talk to you on Monday. Okay? Stay warm.